The new track will be in a couple hours. Does stay offshore, but it puts most of the eastern part of Florida into that path. And then we go into the future here up towards the Carolinas. And obviously, everybody in the Carolinas is very concerned about where it's going here. So let's focus in on a couple areas. Charleston, at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning, 110 mile an hour winds. Again, and that distance is about 50, 60 miles offshore. The hurricane force winds are about 30 miles to the west. So that's going to put it very close. Certainly all of the South Carolina coast will be in the tropical storm force winds for sure. And then we go up towards eastern North Carolina. If there's going to be a landfall where the center actually crosses the coast, it's probably going to be Carteret County or the Outer Banks. So somewhere in there early, and this is where it is Friday morning. So this is going to happen Thursday night into early Friday morning. And again, New Bern, Morehead City area, probably my biggest concern right now for significant storm surge. Let's go to the satellite imagery because I think this is kind of the big story. So this is where it made landfall yesterday, and it's basically been sitting in between these two islands, Abaco Island, and this is Grand Bahama Island, I believe. Freeport's about right there. You can see it's moved north. This morning I was watching it sit on this poor island and just pummel them with 160 mile an hour winds, but you can clearly see it's starting to move north slowly. So now it's paralleling the coast. Everybody was worried it was going to continue to move west. It's pretty amazing. I'm always amazed by how good our science actually is that we're able to have this freight train coming at Florida and know that it's going to stop and turn, and sure enough, it's done it. I know it's always precarious and you think, oh my gosh, it's not going to happen, but it is drifting north now. It's still very, very slow at this rate. And a couple of things, I'll show you the satellite image with the visible image. The eye is filled in a little bit. It's still an eye. It's very clearly an eye, but it's not crystal clear. And again, that has a little bit to do with the interaction with the island. It's not a huge island, but it's enough land that is causing a little bit of weakening. And because it's been sitting in the same area for a while, this water is somewhat shallow around these islands. So there's upwelling of cooler water as it turns the water over. So as it does, it is causing a little bit of weakening. Now, as it moves north, you're probably saying it's getting back over warm water, yes, but it's also going to start experiencing a little bit of wind shear. So it's still a powerful Category 4 storm, and it's likely going to be a Cat 3 or higher for the next several days. So this isn't something I would be, excited about. I mean, I guess it's good that it's not getting stronger, but it's still a powerful hurricane. So let's widen the view here for a second. Water vapor loop is really huge here, and the reason why is we can clearly see the trough digging down. You see all the drier air sagging into the southeast, and you can notice the influence of that southwesterly flow starting to push the storm off to the north and east. So the closer this gets to the storm and the closer this gets north, it's going to start forcing it northeast. The problem is it could be a while before it really gets a kick to the northeast. But once it gets caught up in these strong southwesterly winds in the mid and upper levels, that is going to kick it out pretty quickly. And just to show you, these winds are coming down like this, off in this direction. So once it gets here, it's going to accelerate. If it's been moving like a turtle down here, it's going to be moving like a hare up here because it's going to be flying. Basically, it's going to jump from the South Carolina coast to the Outer Banks in about a 24-hour period, where it's taken about 72 hours to cross two little islands in the Bahamas. So the good news, it is moving pretty quickly. And we have very high confidence in this forecast, even though it's a very close call with the west coast of Florida. I'll show you all the model guidance. Really tightly clustered. That is incredibly tightly clustered and then rolling off to the north and east. So you can see a couple outliers are close to Charleston and the coast, but I mean, you've got over 90% of the model members within this range right there. Where it becomes a little more precarious is here Thursday into Thursday night. The consensus is still offshore, but if you had the western side of the consensus, it is clipping parts of eastern North Carolina. And the H-Wharf, which has been way off to the west all along, at one point it had it way over here, it's starting to come back to the pack. So this is really good consensus, but if you're in eastern North Carolina, this is likely the one spot where it could actually make landfall and be a big issue for eastern North Carolina. And then it pushes out to sea fairly quickly. So let's look at some of the threats from this storm. And I updated this morning. I really haven't seen a reason to change this. Here's our impacts. This was as of 11 a.m. I'll update this with the 5 o'clock advisory. All along the coast, high impacts because winds could be 50 to 75 miles per hour, surge 6 to 10 inches, or rain to 6 to 10 inches, and surge about 4 to 7 feet. Now, the reason that's a big deal is if you get heavy rain and surge, a lot of these rivers and the intercoastal will have trouble draining water out. So surge is the biggest issue. Now, wind, believe it or not, every mile you get west, the wind becomes less of an issue. There's more friction over land, which slows the wind down, and you're just getting farther away from the storm. So it's really going to be less of a wind threat inland. And just to kind of reiterate that, I'll show you the probabilities of seeing tropical storm force winds, which are technically 39 miles an hour, but we rounded up to 40. You can see the east coast of Florida is going to get tropical storm force winds, and likely the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina. But the probabilities back here towards Charlotte are very small. These are very small percentages, but look at the percentages on the coast. 70% or higher. That's a pretty good chance you're going to see tropical storm force winds. Now, as far as hurricane force winds are concerned, the chances of that being further west. Remember, the tropical storm force winds are going to expand a little bit and be pretty broad, but the hurricane force winds are going to be very close to the center and mainly to the right side or to the east side. So as the storm moves up the coast by Friday morning, even on the coast, the hurricane force wind chances are probably closer to about 20%, and inland they're 0. So if you're worried about wind here, don't. There's really no wind threat back in here, honestly. The threat back here is just for a breezy day on Thursday or Friday. And in fact, if I look at the rainfall forecast, this will kind of show you that, I mean, believe it or not, we could get 0 rain in Charlotte and back here. Whereas right along the coast is where the heavy rain, this is a tight gradient, goes from 7 inches to no between Charleston and Columbia. But Raleigh, east side of Raleigh could see some rain and some heavy rain, eastern North Carolina. But western part of the state is looking at very light rain overall. So I don't expect a lot to fall over there. Real quick update on all the warnings currently in effect. Let me play this real quickly. Hurricane warnings extend to the east coast of Florida. We've got hurricane watches now up into Georgia. Tropical storm watch for Lake Okeechobee. Wait pretty much tonight or early tomorrow. We'll see probably hurricane watches and probably tropical. You'll see a combination of both, because they'll put the watch up just in case there's a shift. But tropical storm conditions are more likely than anything along the coast, and I would fully anticipate that to be happening probably tonight or first thing tomorrow. Let me quickly show you the satellite again, and I'm going to throw up the radar here because we do have some radar imagery. It's close enough to the coast that we've got radar imagery, so let me throw that up real quickly, and I'll loop it. And this gives you a really good idea where the center is. Definitely moving north. Some of the outer bands are affecting the east coast of Florida with some tropical storm force winds. But all in all, this is a good sign that it's moving north. Now we're keeping an eye on it up here in the Carolinas. So that's the 3 o'clock update. I will be doing a full update on air at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte. You can stream us on WCNC.com or on our app. And also remember, I will be doing a Facebook Live tonight between 8 and 8:30. I'll try to do one every night this week until the storm is no longer a threat to our area. But that's all I have for right now. I'll go back to the beginning real quickly here and show you. This is the current update. Winds are 150 miles an hour, moving west, northwest. I'd say it's moving more north. Still at 1 mile per hour, but pressure's coming up and wind speeds still 150 miles an hour. I'm flabbergasted. I'm sitting here and go, hey, it's 35 mile per hour weaker and it's still 150 mile an hour hurricane. So please be ready all along the coast. Don't take this storm lightly. Prepare for a hurricane. Even if a storm shifts a little bit east, it's still going to have a huge surge threat. And if it shifts to the west, you're certainly going to have hurricane conditions on the coast. Thanks, everybody.